In July 2025, artillery lit up the Thai-Cambodian border, fighter jets screamed overhead, and over 150,000 people, civilians, ran for their lives. In just 3 days, the fighting left more than 30 dead. Border towns emptied, martial law was declared, and Southeast Asia watched, holding its breath. What triggered this? A centuries-old temple, a 117-year-old French map, and a 21st-century political feud that spilled over into real violence. This isn't the first time these two neighbors have fought over it, but this time it feels different. Behind the scenes, personal rivalries, leaked phone calls, power struggles in Bangkok, national pride in Phnom Penh, and a dangerous game of brinkmanship. Thailand and Cambodia aren't just fighting over a line on a map, they're fighting over history, legacy, and legitimacy. To understand why this war is happening now, you need to go back to old treaties, to colonial boundaries, to temples carved into mountaintops. This is the story of a border that never stopped bleeding, and a conflict that refuses to stay buried. Chapter 1: The Temple That Sparked a War. High on a sandstone plateau in northern Cambodia stands Preah Vihear, a 1,000-year-old temple carved in honor of the Hindu god Shiva. Built by the Khmer Empire, this was a sacred place, a site of pilgrimage, worship, and royal prestige, but it was never a battlefield. Not then. In the 11th century, this land was Khmer. As centuries passed, it fell under Thai influence, but borders, as we think of them today, didn't exist. No one drew lines through the Dangrek Mountains. Even in the 19th century, with France colonizing Cambodia, Preah Vihear was remote, sacred, but largely ignored by governments and armies alike. In 1904, France and Siam agreed to fix the border using the natural watershed, the ridgeline that splits rain runoff north and south. But in 1907, when French cartographers drew the map, they placed Preah Vihear on the Cambodian side, against the watershed. Thailand, then still Siam, said nothing. There was no protest, and for the next 50 years, nothing happened. The map was used in Thai textbooks, official documents, and border posts. Thailand accepted it in practice, but never formally ratified it, and that silence would later become the center of a legal battle. The temple was easier to reach from Thailand. Thai pilgrims and officials often visited. But there was no military presence, no flags, no checkpoints. During World War II, Thailand, backed by Japan, invaded French Indochina. It occupied 4 Cambodian provinces near Preah Vihear. Some maps from this period placed the temple back inside Thailand's borders. But in 1946, under pressure from the Allies, Thailand returned all occupied territory to French control, including the area around Preah Vihear, so the French took over again and the old map returned. Once again, the issue went quiet. In 1953, Cambodia gained independence from France. The French were leaving, and the border was about to become real again. Sensing an opportunity, Thai troops quietly occupied Preah Vihear in 1954. No shots were fired, but the message was clear. This temple, they said, was Thai. Chapter 2: Colonial Shadows and Broken Maps. The modern-day border between Thailand and Cambodia was not drawn by Cambodians or Thais. It was drawn by colonial agents, men from Paris, Saigon, and Bangkok. They had pencils, protractors, and imperial ambition. When France and Siam signed a border treaty in 1904, they agreed to use the natural watershed to define the border, the ridgeline of the Dangrek Mountains. But when French cartographers returned with the map in 1907, Preah Vihear had slipped south of the ridge, into Cambodia. The temple sat below the ridge, that was a fact, but the French map said otherwise, a quiet cartographic sleight of hand, or a simple mistake. Either way, Thailand would later call it a colonial trick. In 1959, Cambodia brought the case to the International Court of Justice. Their argument was simple. Thailand had accepted the French map for 50 years, used it, printed it, never challenged it, and under international law, that silence meant consent. Thailand countered, the map violated the treaty, it was never formally signed, and regardless of who drew what, the temple was clearly on the Thai side of the watershed, and therefore, on Thai soil. In legal terms, it was a fight between treaty language and customary acceptance. between physical geography and colonial precedent. On June 15, 1962, the International Court of Justice ruled in favor of Cambodia. By 9 votes to 3, the court found that Thailand had accepted the French map and was bound by it. Cambodia celebrated. King Norodom Sihanouk called it a triumph of law over might, but in Thailand, it was seen as a betrayal, a court of foreigners, using colonial paperwork, handing away what many Thais considered rightfully theirs. Thailand complied with the ruling and withdrew its troops, but the resentment never faded. Thai school books continued to teach the temple as part of Thai history, politicians invoked it during elections, and border guards eyed it with suspicion. The ICJ had ruled on sovereignty, but it hadn't settled the border, or resolved the emotion, or erased the map. What the ICJ confirmed wasn't just ownership of a temple, it confirmed the power of old maps, of colonial pen strokes made in another century, and it reminded Southeast Asia that even sacred stones could become pawns on a colonial chessboard. Chapter 3. From Silence to Skirmishes. After the 1962 ruling, Thailand withdrew its troops. Cambodia took control of Preah Vihear, but the resentment in Thailand never disappeared. Thai school books continued to depict the temple as Thai. Nationalist politicians spoke of betrayal. Still, there were no armed clashes, just silence and suspicion. In 1975, after the Cambodian Civil War, a communist group known as the Khmer Rouge, led by Pol Pot, seized control of Cambodia, renaming the country Democratic Kampuchea. The regime emptied cities, closed schools, and purged perceived enemies. Religion was outlawed. Preah Vihear, like all sacred sites, was abandoned and defaced. There was no temple tourism, no border patrols, just terror. The border went quiet because Cambodia was burning. On Christmas Day 1978, Vietnam launched a full-scale invasion of Cambodia with the aim of overthrowing the Khmer Rouge regime. The Vietnamese forces, supported by Cambodian defectors, swept through the country in just 2 weeks, capturing Phnom Penh by January 7, 1979, and installing the People's Republic of Kampuchea under Heng Samrin. But the conflict didn't end. It just moved to the border. The defeated Khmer Rouge forces, along with their leader Pol Pot, fled westward across the Thai frontier. They were joined by other anti-Vietnamese resistance groups, including royalist forces loyal to Prince Sihanouk and the Khmer People's National Liberation Front. These groups set up camps in the mountains and jungles along the Thai border, including areas near Preah Vihear Temple, transforming the ancient UNESCO World Heritage Site into a militarized zone. Thailand, aligned with the West during the Cold War and opposed to Vietnamese expansion, provided tacit support and tolerated these border camps. By 1981, over 250,000 Cambodian and Vietnamese refugees were living in 20 camps along the Thai border. The situation was complicated by genuine refugees fleeing the conflict, mixed in with armed resistance fighters. For over a decade, the area around the temple was a militarized ghost zone, mined, watched, and deeply unstable. The border region became a deadly maze of landmines, with tragic incidents like the forced repatriation of over 40,000 Cambodian refugees at Preah Vihear in June 1979, where thousands were killed attempting to cross minefields back into Cambodia. This shadow war continued until the late 1980s, when changing geopolitics finally began to bring the parties toward a peace settlement. In October 1991, after more than a decade of shadow warfare along the Thai-Cambodian border, exhausted negotiators gathered in Paris to sign the comprehensive political settlement of the Cambodia conflict. The Paris Peace Accords promised an end to the bloodshed that had consumed Cambodia since the fall of Phnom Penh. A shaky peace followed, monitored by the largest UN peacekeeping operation in history. By May 1993, under the watchful eyes of international observers, Cambodians went to the polls in their first free elections in decades. The country began the long, painful process of rebuilding from the ashes. But the peace didn't reach the cliffs of Preah Vihear. High on the Dongrek escarpment, where the ancient Khmer temple commanded sweeping views across the Cambodian plains, a different reality persisted. Thai and Cambodian patrols maintained their positions in the contested borderlands, keeping a cautious distance from each other but remaining fully armed and alert. The formal cessation of hostilities meant little here, where sovereignty itself remained in dispute. The minefields remained too, invisible sentinels scattered through the jungle approaches, a deadly legacy of the border war that would claim limbs and lives for years to come. Demining efforts proceeded slowly, hampered by the political sensitivity of the area and the technical challenges of clearing ordnance from such remote, mountainous terrain. By the late 1990s, as Cambodia's tourism industry began its tentative recovery, Preah Vihear started to reopen to visitors, but only just. The temple's accessibility remained a delicate matter of diplomatic choreography. Most tourists reached the site through Thailand, following winding mountain roads that terminated at the temple's northern entrance. Both nations maintained a studied silence about this arrangement, neither wanting to provoke the other by asserting too forcefully where exactly the international boundary ran through this sacred space. The unresolved question hung in the air like morning mist over the Dangrek Mountains. In whose territory did this jewel of Khmer architecture truly lie? The 1962 International Court of Justice ruling had seemed to settle the matter, awarding the temple to Cambodia. But on the ground, among the gun positions and patrol paths carved into the cliff tops, the reality remained far more complex. Guidebooks of the 90s spoke in careful euphemisms about border formalities and advised travelers to check current conditions before visiting. What they didn't mention was that Preah Vihear had become a monument not just to ancient Khmer glory, but to the enduring power of unresolved territorial disputes to cast shadows long after the guns had officially fallen silent. Chapter 4: UNESCO and the Return to Conflict. The fragile peace that had settled over Preah Vihear in the late 1990s shattered in 2008, triggered by an seemingly innocent cultural preservation effort. Cambodia's decision to seek UNESCO World Heritage Site status for Preah Vihear Temple reignited the historical dispute over ownership that had supposedly been settled by the International Court of Justice in 1962. What should have been a moment of celebration for Cambodia's ancient heritage instead became a flashpoint for nationalist fury in Thailand. Thai protesters lambasted their own foreign minister, Nopadon Patama, who had supported the Cambodian petition, likening his actions to treason. Public outrage forced Nopadon to resign on July 10, 2008. On July 15, 2008, Thailand sent soldiers to Preah Vihear to reclaim the territory surrounding the temple. Cambodia responded by increasing its troop levels as well. The border became militarized once again, with several firefights between October 2008 and April or May 2011, claiming at least 34 lives. The violence reached its peak in February 2011 when Cambodia reported 4 soldiers and 1 police officer killed, 13,000 people temporarily displaced, and 6 houses damaged in renewed clashes. This round of fighting saw Thailand condemned internationally for the first known use of cluster munitions since a 2008 convention banning such weapons. The crisis finally began to wind down in December 2011 when Cambodia and Thailand agreed to withdraw their troops from the disputed border area near Preah Vihear. The International Court of Justice ultimately ruled in Cambodia's favor in 2013, but tensions remained high beneath the surface. After more than a decade of relative calm, the border has erupted into violence once again in 2025. This time, the immediate trigger appears to have been landmine incidents in July that severely injured Thai soldiers, some requiring amputations. While Cambodia denied responsibility and attributed the blasts to unexploded mines from past conflicts, Thai sources argued that the uncovered PMN-2 mines were distinct from old munitions. Armed fighting broke out on Thursday morning, July 24, 2025, near the disputed ancient Prasat Ta Moantam Temple in Surin Province, Thailand, very close to the border with Cambodia. The violence quickly spread, with fighting occurring in 12 locations along the disputed border and at least 11 civilian deaths. The conflict escalated to include Thai F-16 fighter jets being deployed against Cambodian military targets, marking a significant escalation from the artillery duels of the previous crisis. Analysts warned the conflict was likely to get worse before it gets better, with relations between the Southeast Asian countries collapsing to their lowest level in years. However, diplomatic intervention proved decisive. US President Donald Trump, who had returned to office in January 2025, was reported to have spoken with the leaders of Cambodia and Thailand, and they had agreed to immediately meet and quickly work out a ceasefire. A truce was established, though Thai officials accused Cambodia of ceasefire violations while stating their troops had retaliated, appropriately, and in self-defense. Both crises reveal the same underlying dynamic. Nationalist fervor and political fracas continue to fuel the long-standing border dispute, while disputed border areas remain contested despite the 1962 ICJ ruling. The ancient temples that once symbolized Khmer civilization's glory continue to serve as flashpoints for modern conflicts, their sacred stones witness to the enduring power of unresolved territorial disputes to ignite violence across generations. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the complex history of the Thai-Cambodian border conflict and the role of ancient temples in modern geopolitics, hit that like button and subscribe for more forgotten stories of how the past continues to shape our present. From Cold War proxy battles to UNESCO disputes that sparked real violence, history is never really history. It's always unfolding around us in ways we never expect.